those things, they aren't one object with like lights along it. They're separate objects, and they can split up. They can like do other things too. I have other like examples of video of them that I've recorded, but they can fly in different formations. The first time I saw it, it flew directly over my apartment, and I want to know if it was like this with you too, because when it was spinning and moving, it was so precise in the way it moved. Like it was moving in a very weird, like mathematical way, like as far as precision goes and the arrangement of the lights. It was almost like it looked computerized, kind of. It was really, really weird.
Before I had the sightings, I was definitely more of a skeptic and just in denial about the fact that there's a possibility that there are other life forms out there. And since having them, I have definitely become more open and just realized that anything is possible. I have no idea what they are, where they came from, what they want, but it just definitely makes you think anything is possible.
This all happened in downtown Edmonton, Alberta. It's highly unusual. Like, I didn't expect anything weird or mysterious, anything of a, I guess, paranormal nature to happen in this area. Usually when I'm exploring these topics and, searching for things related to the unexplained, it is out in the wilderness, usually looking for Sasquatch and investigating that mystery. So when I'm out doing these things, I'm expecting events to occur in a natural area, not in like the downtown core of a busy city, where there's lots of eyes watching. You don't really expect that, but it did, and it happened right above me every time. Like it was right there for me to see. It almost made me wonder if if they were communicating or trying to communicate directly to me. And I still don't know, but the first event happened at the end of May in 2022. I think it was May 30th. And I was out standing on my patio, just watching the stars. It was a pretty clear night, and I was kind of half in the doorway, half out. It was like a sliding door on the patio. And as I was about to turn around to go inside, something caught my attention. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw what appeared to be a flash of light. And I looked up, and I saw the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen in my entire life, which was a row of lights. If I recall correctly, it was about 6 or 7 lights, and they were in a straight line, and they were moving from north to south. Now, the weird thing was that straight line of lights was spinning almost like a helicopter blade on like a center axis. The whole thing was spinning. It was dead quiet, and I watched it pass directly over top of me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it freaked me out. I ran inside, I slammed that sliding door, and I spent the next little while just pacing around, processing what I saw. I'm like, there is no way that actually happened. I must be going crazy. But deep down I knew I actually saw it. It didn't seem natural. It seemed almost mathematical in the way it moved. It was very calculated and precise. I want to say like computerized or something like that. I think mathematical is probably the best term. It was just incredibly precise and unnatural, and I think that's what freaked me out about it the most. But I ran inside, and I was freaking out. I'm thinking, man, I cannot go to bed tonight. What happens if I get abducted? Because I've always been familiar with the UFO subject. But I was waiting for something like this to happen, my whole life. I've always wanted to experience this strange phenomena of lights in the sky, not necessarily the abduction part of it, but just, having a visual UFO sighting. I wanted to know for myself if it was actually real. I don't know, I was always kind of poking around, like trying to maybe make something happen. There's lots of people that you'll discover online who talk about like utilizing meditation and things like that to try and send your thoughts out into the universe in hopes of having something respond and show up and maybe, I guess in a sense, answer your calls. And I was always doing stuff like that, and I did not expect anything to actually happen, and I'm still not even certain that that's what caused this. That is just a suspicion of mine because it would make sense. But anyways, I saw that row of lights that was spinning, and I had a set of like cheap night vision binoculars that I bought off the internet. And I went back outside to, try my luck at capturing it on video again. I felt, well, like this is the perfect opportunity to investigate this. I just saw something like crazy. And I need to get this on camera so I don't feel crazy afterwards. And, to prove to people when I try and tell them the story that there was actually something there. Now that thing, as I saw it the first time, didn't show up again, but I did see more lights that showed up, and I managed to capture it on video. Again, flying in a very peculiar way, dead silent. And the footage was not great. It was awful. Like, I'm not gonna lie. You do see something there, but it was very low res footage, very grainy, very shaky. But for me, it was, reassurance that I did see something. There was something there. So that was very good because I didn't want to start losing my mind. And that was essentially the first encounter. Like, there were multiple times that night where I was sitting out there with like tears in my eyes because it was so unusual and I was freaked out. I was expecting the worst as far as like strange things happening, like maybe an abduction or maybe eventually, a visit by like Men in Black or something like that. But nothing like that had occurred. I ended up, I think, passing out probably around 3 or 4 a.m. that night. And, that was that. I made a YouTube video about it, explaining in detail what happened. The video is still up. And that was the start of everything. Of a whole year's worth of sightings. Which, seeing one UFO object in the sky is pretty crazy. But to have it happen over and over and over and over again, there has to be something there. There has to be something to it. Why would they want to do that? Is it me making this happen? Is it what I'm, doing with my mind, trying to send these messages out to lure them in? The evidence would suggest something along those lines. But it wasn't long after I went out again to do some more filming in hopes of recording these things again, getting better footage. This time I had an actual camera with a wide-angle lens. I set it up on a tripod, pointed up directly above me, and I let the camera roll. I didn't notice anything at first. And I was sitting out there. It was late at night. I was getting hungry, because a guy gets kind of hungry looking for UFOs for a while. So I went inside to grab some snacks. I think I was grabbing some cookies or something like that. And as I was coming outside again, the timing was impeccable. I came outside and I sat down in my chair, and right as that was happening, you can see in the footage this row of lights. There's 3 lights in the footage directly above me that appear to come out of these clouds, and they start flying across the sky, kind of like in a west to east direction. And I looked up after I sat down and I noticed it, and I grabbed the camera so that I could follow it. And you can see the footage here.
No fucking way.
So yeah, that second time that I saw them, that was like, wow. Like, there they are. There they are again. There's a row of lights. That first time I saw them, I wasn't imagining it. They actually came back. What are the odds, too, that I picked the right night to see them again? That's what leads me to believe that maybe there's something to the whole thought, I guess, sending out your thoughts into the sky, into the universe for them to listen and to hear you. I really do think there's something there. The odds of them actually showing up again on that specific night, I think, are pretty low. So I do think there's something to that. But anyways, I was very excited that second time. I was a lot less scared. I mean, to somebody who's not into this weird stuff, who doesn't explore it regularly, that first experience would have scared the absolute living shit out of them. I was like used to this stuff to an extent. I was very familiar with the UFO subject, and even then it was very alarming. It was almost disturbing. There, you see the three lights in a row, very similar to that first UFO I saw with the spinning lights. This is all in the same fucking clip, and I'm not imagining this. This is on fucking video. So there's that. I'm gonna go back out. But yeah, I was much more enthusiastic that second time, and that's when I knew, okay, there's something here, there's a mystery here, it's got to be solved. We're gonna put all our energy and, you know, effort and time into this. We're gonna move kind of from the Bigfoot subject into the UFO thing. So anyways, after that experience, stuff started getting crazy. I started seeing these crazy blue lights, these bright blue lights that were flying really low, and they're very creepy. They're dead quiet, and you just are observing them, and you can't help but feel that they're observing you. And it's super eerie, because it's just like, there's something about them moving really slow that is unsettling. A lot of UFO footage you see, these things are moving lightning fast, you know, it's very quick, and it's like, wow, that is very impressive speed. And, you know, these things are pulling off very impressive maneuvers, but some of these things you see are moving very slow, and it's very creepy because you have a lot of time to take it in and really think about it. And sometimes you look at these things and you'd even like try and send out thoughts to it to see if it would do anything. I haven't really had any success doing that yet, making these things actually, you know, respond to me in that way. But these blue lights would show up. And a lot of times, most of the times you'd see that blue light, there would be another light in the distance moving at the same speed in an almost parallel fashion, almost like they were connected somehow. And I have that recorded on footage in multiple instances. In the one shot I got, it was very interesting. I was filming this blue orb, and then you could see that other secondary light off in the distance moving along with it. And then there was an airplane that flew over very low for some reason. We'll get into the plane thing later, because there was some weird aircraft that kept flying over the place, but there's no way that pilot in that plane did not see that light. There's no way. And I filmed that blue light multiple times. The one shot I got of it, it was a little bit higher up, and it was flying through the clouds, and it was dead quiet. But when you look at it closely, if you zoom in on the footage, you can see the electricity, some sort of electric energy around this light, and then it proceeds to fly into the cloud. It's not above the clouds, it's not a satellite or anything like that. It flies into the cloud and disappears. It's very clear in the video. And what are these things? I don't know. This wasn't the same as the lights before. This is very different. You can see in the footage, it's very, very different. So I started filming these blue lights. I don't know what they are. I filmed them so many times. And then I started getting these parallel lights on camera that were just like white lights. Oh, they almost look like satellites, but you can tell they're a lot lower in altitude, and they're always flying in pairs. Sometimes there's even 3 of them in, you know, they'd be in a triangle formation or something like that. Sometimes the lights would be really, really close together. I have those recorded multiple times as well. And they kept showing up. It was like my own personal air show every night. And I could really count on it. Like, I could go out fairly confidently knowing that I would see something and I would get footage. So over like the past year, I've amassed a huge collection of shots. In the one shot I got, you can see there's a helicopter that flies over. You know, I'm tracking that helicopter, it flies past the building, and then I pan in front of me, and these 2 parallel lights, dead silent, fly directly over top of me. That was a creepy one. Usually they fly directly over top of you, and it's like, what is this? What does this mean? And again, it's super weird how it's in a city, in the downtown area of a city, the capital city of Alberta. The last place I would have expected to see anything like this. I was tracking a light in the sky. I couldn't tell on the camera if it was a satellite or not. And I'm tracking this light. And as far as I was concerned while it was happening, that was it. It was just one light. And I was looking at the footage on the computer. I noticed I had caught the most amazing thing ever. And that was very, very definitive to me, seeing that footage. This light comes from the top left corner of the screen, zips down, and then zips back up to this object I was tracking and pulls these maneuvers that I've never seen anything pull before in the sky. And yeah, that really sold me on it. Because I was honestly starting to feel like I was losing my mind, and I was really questioning everything. I was starting to feel like I was crazy. Like, am I just filming satellites? I don't know. Like, you really start wondering and start questioning yourself, and it's been really tough in that regard. But every now and then you'll get stuff like this on video, and it's like, okay, yeah, no, there's actually something here. There's actually something here. And then you go over everything that had happened previously, and when you look at the big picture, you can start piecing it all together, that something is actually going on, and you're not going crazy. And boy, I'll tell you, you really do need moments like that, where you capture really good stuff on video, because if you don't, if you just capture like questionable things on video that could be something, you will start to go crazy, you know? So, I didn't notice this thing on camera. I couldn't see it. All I could see was that main light I was tracking. And, you know, the camera can see a lot more with the ISO, the light sensitivity turned all the way up. It can see a lot more than the human eye can. And when you're in a city, you know, you got a lot of lights kind of around you interfering with your vision in the sky. So that was a really good find. I was really happy I caught that on video, and yeah, it's key. It's always key to go over the footage after, because you don't really know what you got. You don't know. Something could be there. And you have to really scrub through that footage with a fine-tooth comb and go over everything closely, because sometimes you might not think you have something, and you actually do. And then not long after that, I filmed the next craziest thing. And it might be even more crazy. I was filming these lights in the sky that were doing weird things, zipping around, and then I heard this airplane in the other direction approaching. But as I pan the camera over and start filming this airplane, you can see behind it, kind of behind and above it, this triangular shaped UFO flying from right to left. And like, I mean, you can see it as clear as day. There's 3 lights in a triangle formation flying past this, like, past the plane, but behind it. If you're like a drone operator or something, that's a big no-no. Like, you're not going to be flying a drone that close to where, you know, aircraft are flying. Highly, highly illegal. You'd get in a lot of shit, but there it is. Did that plane see anything? I don't know. I didn't even see this thing with my eyes. I couldn't see it. I don't know if it was because, like, it wasn't letting me see it. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. The point is, I discovered that on the footage afterwards, you know, when I was going through it on my computer. So again, key. It's always key to go over that footage. And that was another thing that I was like, man, this is this really confirms it to me. Still don't know what is going on, why they're here, why I keep seeing this stuff. If you look at the size of it compared to the plane, like, it's wider than the fuselage of that plane, and it's further beyond, it's further past it. So whatever it is, it's quite large. Definitely big enough to hold occupants. But yeah, it really started taking a toll on my mind. Because sometimes you'll show this stuff to people, and you'll be expecting a certain reaction. You'll be expecting like, oh wow, what was that? Like, that's amazing. And you'll just get like, all right. Like, you won't get the reactions that you expect. And that is a really hard thing to deal with. I did not expect that. And I didn't expect it to affect me in the way it did. It made everything really, really difficult. It's stuff that for the longest time has been considered to be taboo and, you know, not supposed to exist. It's not supposed to be out there. A lot of people don't believe in this stuff. A lot of people still think we're the only ones in the universe. But how do you explain this footage? This is where I start to lose most people. These weird things started showing up. I call them creatures. They look like birds. They have wings, and you can see these wings flapping. The only difference between these things And birds, though, is that they're lit up, they're illuminated, and they're bright. They're not glowing, they're emitting light. When these things first started showing up, it was really interesting to observe, because at first, the formations that they were flying in, like there'd be a few of them, maybe 3 or 4 of them. Sometimes 2, sometimes 1. Usually 4, maybe 5. Usually 4. And they'd be flying in a formation that was like super rigid. Like there was no organic nature to them in their flight characteristics, I guess. They were like very rigid. And you can see it in the footage. But as time went on, as I kept seeing these things, they started, becoming more organic, I noticed. And you would see more of them. There would always be more and more of them until eventually there would be a lot of them. They don't make any noise. They don't make any noise at all. They're dead quiet. Sometimes these formations would be like perfect V formations that you'd imagine, geese flying in. Geese always fly in these V formations. Geese are also very noisy birds. They're extremely noisy when they fly. They make honking sounds. They always do that. These things never have made a single honking sound. So that I thought was very weird. I'm like, okay, if these aren't birds, they're not making these like geese noises. They don't have all the characteristics of geese. What are they? Why are they illuminated? Why are they emitting light? So you start to wonder, are they reflecting light from the ground, from the city? I don't think they are. I really don't think they are. When I look at them and I see the amount of light these things are outputting, it's like they're almost brighter than the stars. Another thing, like, many aircraft have flown over since this all started happening, and I was filming like these weird helicopters flying over. Police helicopters would like circle around sometimes, and they're made of metal, and they are not reflecting the city light at the same level that these bird things are. So I'm like, what is going on here? How could these things be reflecting city light and being that bright? And why aren't these metallic helicopters and aircraft reflecting the light at the same intensity? It didn't make sense. So it kind of led me to believe that they're actually emitting light. And as time went on, they did start to get more organic in how they were flying. And you can see it in the footage. It's almost as if, and this might sound crazy, but this is kind of the conclusion I've come to, is that I think it's a disguise. I think it's a disguise of some kind, because they're showing up over a really populated area. So at first, when they showed up, they were very rigid and they were bird-like, but not really bird-like. Like they kind of looked physically like birds. And as time went on, they became more and more bird-like, as if they were learning how to become more like birds. They were perfecting their disguise as time went on. And that really started weirding me out. You look at some of the footage and they look like geese. You would think that they're geese. They're flying in a big V formation. But like I said, they don't make any sound. But then you would see them flying around in ways that geese don't fly around. Like it didn't make any sense. They'd be like moving around in very weird ways. This one time I was just sitting there, and I didn't know this, but they were hovering directly above me in like a group. And I looked up and I noticed it eventually. And I ended up pointing the camera up at the sky, and you can see there's a group of these things just flying around in like a group right above me. And you can see one of them flies towards the group, and when it gets to the group, they all take off as one group, and then they assemble in that V formation and take off. It's very weird. I've never seen birds act like that before. I've never seen geese do this before. So it's like, what are these things? I don't think they're birds. I think it's a disguise. And I think they have the ability to do that. I think these things, whatever they are, can make themselves, they can show themselves to us as whatever they want to. But yeah, as time went on, the disguise got better and better and better. Sometimes you'd see them and they would just be one creature. And they'd be zipping around in like, I've never seen birds fly like this. The maneuvers that these things pull. There's one piece of video I have where I film a formation of these things flying overhead, and they fly all the way to the horizon and out of sight. I have that camera set to infinity focus with an f1.2 aperture. So everything in the far distance is in focus, and everything close to me is out of focus. So you can tell that whatever this thing is that I filmed is far away. And it zips into frame and shoots up into the sky. And I saw like while I was filming it. It wasn't something that I caught on the computer afterwards. This I actually saw. And that kind of really blew me away. And that's when I knew we weren't dealing with normal birds. I mean, it's possible that it's a cryptid of some kind, along the same lines of a Sasquatch. An undiscovered creature of this earth, just that hasn't been, recognized yet. But then you got to take all the other stuff into account, all the other weird lights that have shown up. Sometimes you'd see these singular creatures zipping around the sky, and they'd almost look like they were glitching out. They would kind of shoot around as they were flying, and they would disappear and appear, and it just, the best way to describe it is that they were glitching out of this reality. They weren't fully here. And I captured this on video multiple times. So what is really going on here? What are these things? I feel like it is a disguise because they're appearing over a largely populated area. It just makes the most sense to me. So this other piece of footage I have, I'm filming them, and there's like a lot of them. You can see they're all clustered together in a line, and there's a lot of them. Well, the whole line is moving in like perfect unison, and at one point in the footage it stretches out and the whole thing rotates. It does a rotating movement on like a center axis. I've never seen birds do that before. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm not saying that they haven't. Like, I'm not a bird expert. I've just never seen that myself in all my years of existence here on Earth. And so what are the odds that all this stuff is happening? Like, all of it. It's one thing to see these things one time, two times, but to have it happening like every single night is pretty crazy. One thing that scared me as well was that like a lot of weird aircraft started flying over my place. So a lot of times it'd be this little, what looks like a Cessna or something along those lines, just like a little fixed wing prop airplane. This aircraft would fly directly over my apartment over and over and over and over again. The one night I think I filmed it flying over like 12 times on like a loop. It started really weirding me out. I started filming what looks like a police helicopter flying over multiple times, and then the weirdest thing that would happen was this helicopter would fly over. Like, I would hear it, I could never see it. It would be flying just on instruments with no lights on at all, and it'd be flying like directly over top my apartment. And eventually I managed to catch it on video, and you can see, sure enough, there's a helicopter just all blacked out with no lights. And I would know it's there because obviously I could hear it, but you couldn't see it. It was the weirdest thing. So, stuff like that, you can't really confirm that, they're onto you, that they're watching you, they're observing you and trying to figure out what's going on, but you start speculating and it starts messing with your head. And it could just be that, that could be the goal, is to mess with your head and maybe try and deter you from filming this sort of stuff and posting it online. I haven't had any visitations from anybody at all, but I had always, had that on the back of my mind, just like wondering, when is the day gonna come where somebody shows up and knocks on my door and I, open the door and there's two men in black standing there or something along those lines. You think of those things because people talk about it. There's lots of reports of encounters like that, men in black encounters. And so that's something that you do worry about. And honestly, it starts to drive a guy crazy. There's been so many times where I felt like I was completely losing my mind, and it's a good thing that the footage exists, because if I didn't have the footage to go back to and look at as confirmation for me, I don't know where I'd be mentally It's been tough. It's been a huge mental challenge. The hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life mentally. One of the craziest things that happened was I ended up randomly meeting someone online who had seen something extremely similar to that initial object I saw, that row of lights that was spinning like a helicopter blade. And I was not expecting that at all. Like, they saw it in Alberta, not in Edmonton, but probably about 2 hours northwest on an acreage. They saw a similar thing, not as many lights, but it was spinning kind of like a helicopter blade. And they hadn't seen that initial YouTube video I made where I described what I saw, and I made like a little recreation of it. They hadn't seen that yet. And I remember we were talking, and I was telling her about all the stuff I was seeing, thinking, okay, this girl is gonna think I'm crazy. She's gonna think I'm nuts. And then she was like, well, why would you just like assume that? Like, how do you know I haven't seen something? And I was like, okay, well, have you seen anything? And then once she started describing what she had seen, that started freaking me out, because like, it was almost exactly like what I saw, just not as many lights. What are the odds that, you know, two people randomly meet online and have seen almost the exact same UFO object? And I haven't seen a lot of reports of an object like this at all. Like a row of lights spinning like helicopter blades. And she had seen these things multiple times. And so, like, what do you do with that? I ended up kind of interviewing her about that, getting more information, and, you know, she's a believer, so.
So the first time that I saw it was the first week of October in 2022. And I was just getting off shift. It was a particularly long night for me, and a long day at work. So I had this really unsettled feeling when I got home. And I sat in my work truck for 20 minutes probably before I went into the house, just trying to decompress and clear my mind. And I remember when I finally got out of the truck, I turned to like grab something out of the box of the truck, and in my peripheral vision I saw 4 lights, and they were in a straight formation spinning across the sky. And I remember thinking, okay, this is very strange. Like, I've lived here now for a couple of years, and as you would know, the sky doesn't have any like light pollution, or, you know, there's nothing around me. So I live in the middle of nowhere. You can see the sky pretty clear. So I see, you know, planes driving across the sky at night and things like that, and I see it all the time, but I've never seen anything like this. I never really thought anything of it until it happened again a couple months later. And the second time that I saw it, it was the beginning of December of 2022, and I had just gotten home from my son's hockey practice. I got everybody in the house and, you know, unloaded my car and things like that, and I think I went back to my car to grab something. And when I grabbed whatever I was grabbing, I remember it was a particularly stressful night. So I took a breath and I looked up at the sky, and I saw it again. I saw it headed north this time, and it was spinning faster than it had been the first time, which I remember thinking like, okay, this is so strange, because I have never seen anything like that before. And that weird, like, eerie, uneasy, unsettled feeling came over me again. And I haven't seen anything like it since. I do watch the sky pretty regularly now, but I haven't seen it since. And yeah, I don't even know how to describe the feeling. It's so interesting to see, but it was such a weird feeling that came over me.
I have to ask you again, and I don't mean to be annoying, but did you actually see that thing in the sky? Because that is like a very rare type of craft and like arrangement of lights. I don't know, the odds of you seeing that as well, and then us both like connecting, are pretty fucking low. So I don't know, if you did, it's really, really weird.
I can't believe you don't believe me. I'm being 100% honest. But yeah, it was like the same but different. Like, it wasn't as long as like what you depicted in your video. It was like maybe half the size.
I did not at all expect you to say something like that. And kind of surprised he didn't mention it earlier, to be honest with you.
I can tell that you still think I'm fucking with you, but I can, 200% guarantee I'm not fucking with you. I didn't bring it up because I tried to, put it out of my mind because I think I'm, a psychopath. And I try to convince myself that it's something and it's not, and it's just a drone. I'm just trying to, live in denial over here.
Well, I totally understand that because it is such a weird and unusual thing to see. And when you see it, your brain is just like, this isn't supposed to be happening. I'm not supposed to be seeing this thing, but I just saw it. So I have to go talk to a professional and get my brain sorted out. You do know that we have to go UFO hunting now, though. Try and get this thing on video.
We can just, set up chairs and sit in my driveway because I'm certain we'll see it there again.
Look in the news nowadays. Look in the news. UFOs are everywhere. It's becoming so popular. There's more and more footage being recorded every day, and people are talking about it. The thing is UFO disclosure, I don't think it's going to come from the government. I don't think it's going to come from the government. I think it's going to come from people like you and me who are filming these things. True disclosure. The government can tell you anything. They can tell you anything. And if we look at their track record, they're not really known for telling the truth. So disclosure will come from normal people. And these things, whatever they are, you'll be scared at first if you see them, but eventually you'll realize that they're not going to hurt you. You don't end up really being scared of them in the long run. You kind of want to see them and you want to have these fantastic experiences. And I don't know, it really does feel like you're witnessing true magic. You're seeing something that you think you would see in a movie. It's like you're watching actual magic happen. That's the kind of feeling you get. Holy crap, wow. It's unbelievable. But there it is. There it is on video. What is it? I don't know. Am I misidentifying things? I don't know. I suppose this is kind of just an addendum to everything I've filmed before for this documentary, my entire telling of events that have occurred throughout this whole experience. Over the summer, things were happening quite regularly, and then as fall and winter rolled around, things got colder outside. I started going out less and less, especially in the dead of winter here in Alberta. It gets down to minus 35, sometimes even colder. That's not unusual. So I didn't really go out much looking for these things, these craft in the sky or these beings. As things started warming up, as spring rolled around and the snow melted away, I started going outside again, but nothing was really happening. It was quiet. And so I thought oh shit, am I gonna have to, start from scratch to try and get these things to show up? Or are they even gonna show up again? Is it over? Are they done showing themselves? I had no idea until recently. I had the craziest thing happen, crazier than anything that's happened before, and I filmed it on video. Now, the video quality's not as good. Over the winter, I downgraded my camera, because money was tight. I was using this camera that I'm actually filming on right now, which is just a little 1080p camera. But I managed to catch something on video that, I don't know, it reminds me of something out of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Spielberg movie. Honestly, it looks it looks like something out of that movie almost. And it blew my mind. And I could talk about it here and describe it, but I might as well just show you the footage. there was a spot in the clouds that looked a little bit brighter than the rest of the clouds. It was like, I don't know, it seemed out of place. It was unusual. So I kept focusing my attention on that, and I'm observing it. And then I noticed it disappeared, and then it would reappear, and then it disappeared and reappeared, and I'm like thinking, what the heck is that? Like, that's something there, like in the clouds or behind the clouds, or, you know, I couldn't really tell at the time. But I kept observing it, and then it would appear, and it would go through like all the colors of the rainbow, basically, like blues, greens, yellows, and whatnot. And then it would zip off, and then it would do like a circle or sometimes a triangle or something. And then it would zip back into my view and just stop, like on a dime. It was the most highly unusual movements I've ever seen anything in the sky do. It was very unnatural. And the footage shows that. You can see, like, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. This is the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. And I managed to capture quite a bit of footage of it. Like, not just a little clip of it. I observed this thing for a long time. Like, I have quite a bit of footage, but overall, like, I was out there watching this thing for probably like 3 hours. I went out at about 11:45, and it was close to like 3 in the morning when I went inside, because I was just tired of sitting there watching it. Eventually I had shut the camera off, and I was just sitting there observing it. That's how long it was there. So it would show up, and then it would, sometimes when it disappeared, if you look really closely at the footage, it would disappear, and as it disappears, a ring of lights appears. And then the light would appear again, the ring would disappear, and then the light would appear again. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but if you look really closely, you can totally see a ring of lights appear as the main light disappears. So that's highly unusual. Totally creepy. You can hear me in the footage, like, breathing kind of heavy, because I was kind of scared. I've never seen anything act like that, and it really seemed otherworldly. Like, in this instance, more than any other instance, I really got the vibe that it was something otherworldly. So yeah, multiple times this thing would go through like the same patterns of appearing and disappearing, going through all these colors. It would go through all the colors in like a slow way, and then once it went through all the colors, it would all of a sudden do it again, but really, really fast. And then once it did that, it would shoot off. It would do like a circle, as I said before, or a triangle, and then it would show up again. Sometimes when it did a circle, it would go in like a clockwise direction, and sometimes it would be counterclockwise. It would switch it up. It was almost as if it was trying to communicate something, like it was trying to say something. Why do the same thing over and over and over again? I don't know. It's like it had a message almost. That's at least the vibe I kind of got from it. But like, I was thinking, what the heck could this thing be? Is somebody on the apartment building next to me, like up at the very top, are they like shining a flashlight at the clouds doing this? Or is it some sort of like high powered, I don't know, like concert light or something along those lines, you know? You can never see a beam of light in the video at all, like projecting onto the clouds. You never see anything like that. And sometimes in the footage, whatever this thing is more obscured by clouds than at other times. You know, some clouds would blow in and it would obscure it more than it was before. So you can really tell that whatever this thing is in the clouds or behind the clouds. Sometimes it would split into two objects. I have that recorded on video multiple times. And it's like, man, what the heck is this thing? I was thinking, who in their right mind would be up on top of this neighboring apartment building doing that all night long, like with a flashlight or something? And could you even like replicate that with a high-powered flashlight? Would it reach the clouds to that degree? So I kind of ruled that out. And it wouldn't just do like circles around the building or triangles. It would sometimes shoot across the sky. Like, I had the camera pointed in one spot because I could predict that it was going to show up there, because that's what it was doing over and over again. So to capture it on video, like, that just made the most sense to aim it at that spot to ensure that I got footage of it. Like, it would shoot across the sky. It wouldn't just be limited to that area. So that also leads me to believe that it wasn't a person on top of the building, you know, doing something like shining a flashlight or using some sort of high-powered stage lights. It just didn't make sense. And you can see in some of the clips, it splits into two different objects, two different lights. These things always appear as light. They're not your typical metallic flying saucer, you know, that you'd imagine that, you know, that are common in popular culture. These are always showing themselves as light. everything that's happened, everything I've seen so far, the parallel craft, the orbs, everything, the weird creature things, it's always light. It's not your typical, metallic flying saucer. Are these craft something that's partially materialized into this reality? Is that why they're showing up as light? I don't know, but it's always light. One can't help but feel that something big is happening or is about to happen. And it oddly correlates with the instability in the world. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, and at the same time, an explosion in UFO or UAP sightings. But we're gonna get to the bottom of it, as long as I don't completely lose my mind, because I feel like I have been. It's been mentally like one of the most challenging things to deal with. And it has been hard. There's been many battles upstairs, So keep your eyes up in the sky when you're outside at night, late at night. If you're by yourself, think about these things and see if anything appears. Just look. You have to look up. You have to look up to notice them. But they are there, I can assure you. This stuff is real. And, what happens next is anyone's guess. But one can't help but feel that something crazy might happen in the near future.
I definitely feel like I got more of like a peaceful vibe, like more like curious than anything. I don't feel like it was like a threat.
Would you be willing to team up with me to find out what these things are, to go out there and to try and capture more of them on video and to maybe get some answers to this mystery? Would you be willing to do that?
This whole thing has really opened my eyes about what the possibilities are in the universe and led me to believe that there is more to this reality than we experience in like our day-to-day lives. So, of course, I would love to team up with you and try to find out what these things are and, what they may want from us.